So, The Godfather turns 50 years old this year, and as I mentioned in my previous video, I had the wonderful opportunity to see the film on the big screen for the first time in my life, the movie being in stunning quality. It was an amazing experience, so much more details of the film are prominent on the big screen, and given I'm someone who is quite anal when it comes to theatre etiquette, I get quite annoyed at people talking, phones flashing and the rustling of crisp packets. But with a higher quality of film comes a higher quality of audience, and collectively the entire cinema was in awe at the greatness we were witnessing. Like I said in the previous review, I was all set to watch The Godfather Part 2 in cinemas also. I had everything set up perfectly. As soon as the showing of the Batman I went to was done, I'd have just enough time to get a bite to eat and head back to the cinema to watch Francis Ford Coppola's follow-up to his masterpiece. 2 movies in one day, quite a treat for someone who hardly ever goes to the cinema these days. But alas, the cinema were having issues with their screening of The Godfather Part 2. Luckily, they were still showing it, and just a few days later I managed to get tickets and watch the film. This mammoth titanic film, almost 3.5 hours long, rich with layered themes, bursting with memorable characters. Now, for someone who talks a lot about the Godfather movies on my channel, and someone who's watched and rewatched parts of the second film numerous times for research purposes with new videos, it might surprise you that I am pretty sure that I've only seen The Godfather Part 2 once in its entirety, from beginning to end, and when I was quite young at that, so I would obviously not understand the movie as well as I can now, and I would have missed the nuance. So that's why out of all 3 films I recently saw, The Godfather, The Batman and The Godfather Part 2, this was the film I was most looking forward to seeing. And it ended up being the film I enjoyed the most. Let's put aside how gorgeous the film looks. I talked about the restoration in the previous review. But in some ways, it was like watching a whole new film for me, in stark contrast to, say, knowing the first film like the back of my hand. The Godfather Part 2 is such a bold film, so ambitious, so audacious. The idea of making a sequel to a film that was already so iconic, that it was anchored by a powerhouse Brando in full form, and to continue the story without him? To not have him appear in the film? To get rid of Richard Castellano as Peter Clemenza and replace him with Michael V. Gazzo, a guy who sounds like he eats gravel for breakfast? To take the action away from the streets of New York and into Cuba? To replace Brando with a younger actor doing an impression, and at that give him a deep backstory where you could easily ruin the character? For the main villain to go from a calculating mafia don to an old guy who had a stroke? To completely change the character of Michael Corleone from the young, handsome Marine to this sinister, cold monster, with the actor somehow managing to play both personas equally as well? How on earth does this film work? How was it not an epic fail that fell flat on its face in an attempt to replicate the brilliance of the first movie? Well, maybe that's partly why it didn't fail. Rather than try and recapture the brilliance of The Godfather Part 2 builds on the excellence of the first film. It is an evolution. Though you do notice a lot of parallels between The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, like, say, the part in the first film where they put the Hollywood producer in their pocket, and the part in the second film where they put the senator in their pocket, Tom Hagen involved both times. The Godfather Part 2 cannot work without the groundwork, the foundation set by its predecessor. Walking out of the cinema, I can't quite help but feel this movie is the superior of the two, in spite of the fact that it needs the first film to establish the things which it takes and evolves. I guess if I watch the first movie, I'd say the first one is better, and if I watch the second, I'll say this one is better. But having seen both on the big screen a few days apart, The Godfather Part 2 is something else, man. Maybe the fact that the first film has been spoofed and homaged so much, whereas this one remains surprisingly untainted in that regard. But in any case, The Godfather Part 2 is an incredible film, quite possibly the greatest motion picture ever made. The movie has so much power, the rawness of the acting coupled with the operatic skill of Coppola. Sometimes you just sit there like Jenko at the theatre, just with a big old smirk across your face because you are witnessing sheer excellence. I won't hide that my eyes may have swelled up in places, I may have had to dab away some wetness. It's just such a powerful film. Maybe it's because I'm older now, I've seen so much more of life. Maybe it's the scenes with the family that resonate, this Corleone family which has drifted so far apart from where everyone was at in the first movie, a time where they were compared to the Roman Empire in the film. And I'm talking about the actual family more so than the mafia family. Just seeing the kids all together and the flashback scenes, Vito working so hard to provide for his family, coming home with a single pair for his wife. Could he have foreseen the events juxtaposed in the other narrative? His eldest son, the heir of the family, already dead. His daughter estranged from the family with a new boyfriend every month. One of his sons killing the other. The story of the rise and the story of the fall of the Corleones told side by side. The drifting apart of family is something difficult to avoid in life, something impossible to hold together for the likes of the desperate Michael Corleone, as highlighted in a beautiful scene where he goes to his mother with his insecurities. And at the risk of coming off as a cliche from a Fast and Furious movie, that's really what these films are all about, family. There's also the immigrant experience of the second film which I can relate to, the depreciation of ethics with each passing generation, the changing and evolving values, the loss of culture from the motherland. The themes of this second film are paramount, and with the murder mystery aspect in the first hour, the drifting apart of Michael and Kay, the Senate hearings, the business dealings in Cuba, Fredo's betrayal and excommunication, it's like watching 4 or 5 films at once, and that's not even mentioning the Vito storyline. You know, that final scene, that nostalgia trip of seeing all the old characters from the first film on Vito's birthday, it's just amazing, isn't it? After the coldness of the events of part 2, just after the murder of Fredo, we get this time capsule. It's like coming across an old VHS in the attic of your youth, a trip down memory lane. Everyone's young, everyone's innocent and carefree, well, almost. And it adds so much to the movie, it provides so much more context, like Sonny having been the one who introduced Carlo to Connie. There are so many details in that scene. The entire gist of The Godfather Part 2 is summarized in that flashback, and it really does deserve an entire video dedicated to analyzing it. I'm conscious that I'm struggling to contain my giddiness at the splendor of this film, and I'm actively trying to avoid hyperbole, so I'll stop short of saying the flashback at the end of The Godfather Part 2 is the finest scene put to film. I tried to pay more attention to some of the side characters when I saw the film, and as always, you notice a lot going on that isn't immediately apparent, such as the alienation of Michael's son, Anthony, from his father, which is of course so important given the father-son themes in this film. And also little hints here and there that Michael and Tom's relationship isn't what it used to be, culminating in that scene near the end where Michael essentially lashes out at Tom, unnecessarily questioning his loyalty, perhaps because, after all, he's just been betrayed by a blood brother. So all in all, just an amazing A-star 10 out of 10 stupendous film, one that fully deserves its reputation as one of the best films ever made. Thanks for watching.